Hi there, it's Nicole from Mama Elephant, and today I have a card featuring the new Friend Indeed sentiment stamp set as well as the Friend Creative Cuts die. I've combined them here for my greeting on a fun shaker card. I am using the stitched rectangle die from the Pika Frame set and then also the stitched rectangle die from the Basic Frames die collection from Mama Elephant to create the frame for my shaker. I'm going to die cut that from some smooth white cardstock. I like to die cut them together and make sure I get them fairly evenly spaced. I don't measure them or anything, it's just more of an eyeball. So there is the frame for the shaker. Next, I am going to die cut a piece of transparency using the largest stitched rectangle frame I just used. This is going to be the window for the shaker card. I like to use the die cuts because it gives you the exact same size as the frame when you're using a frame to create a shaker. That way it is perfectly sized and I don't have to worry about it being too large or too small. From that inside piece rectangle there, I'm going to use the kind of scalloped, or I call it the cloud border from the Landscape Trio Creative Cuts die collection and create a layer of clouds. I'm also going to take a scrap of vellum and I'm going to use the same die to die cut another layer for the clouds, only this one will be the vellum layer. In retrospect, I sort of wish I would have used white again. I don't think the vellum shows up all that well, but this is what I used and it turned out okay. So, you know, sometimes retrospect and all of that. So I'm going to die cut the word friend now for the greeting using the friend die. And I die cut that from some Simon Says stamped slate gray cardstock. Be nice and bold. And I've stamped these three little mice from the Tandem Ride stamp set. Also new with the July release from Mama Elephant. And I'm coloring them in with the Zig Clean Color Real Brush markers. They are stamped on some watercolor cardstock. This is the Tim Holtz watercolor cardstock. For those of you who've been asking me what I have been using with my Zig coloring when I'm using these watercolor markers, I did order the Strathmore watercolor paper and I'm going to be using that. I haven't been overly happy with my results with this watercolor paper or cardstock I've been using. They're okay, but I have heard that the Strathmore paper is a little bit better, so I'm going to try that out and I will let everybody know what I think of that. I am using only 3 colors of these pens to color in my images. I believe it's 900, 901, and 028. I use those a lot, that color combination a lot. In fact, when I colored in these mice for some of my other projects using the Tandem Ride or Tandem Extra stamp set, I used these exact same colors. I think they're a nice color combination for these cute little mice. You may notice that I am coloring over the pink that I colored in the center of the ears and the cheeks with, using the marker to dull it just a little bit. Otherwise, I think it's a really stark, bright pink. And I think the gray helps mute it a little bit. Once these are all colored in and the ink has dried, you want to make sure it's nice and dry. I'm going to use the coordinating Tandem Ride dies to cut those out. And then take the Sakura black gel pen and add definition to the eyes on all 3 of those mice. And then take a white pen and add some little dot detail to the cheeks. Very subtle, but just a fun little way to add a little bit of customization to these cute little critters. And it wasn't very dark the first time, so I went over all of them again to make it a little bit darker. I am ready to start putting together my card now. I have die cut a center rectangle from a scrap of Amy Tangerine 6x6 pattern paper. I didn't have quite a big enough piece for this inside panel. However, that's going to be covered up, so I went ahead and used it because I love this color and I loved how it looked with the little gray mice and the rest of the design of the card, as well as the confetti I'm going to use for the shaker material. So don't let it deter you if the piece of paper you have isn't quite the right size. If you can disguise it with other die cuts, like I'm going to do here, or other elements on your card, you can still use it. I like getting every little bit used out of those favorite pattern papers. So I first attached that background to my actual card base, which is a white card base. I've applied some nice strong adhesive. I'm using the Glue Glider Pro with the Permatac adhesive on the back of the frame, and then attaching that to the transparency piece. I like a strong adhesive for the transparency. Sometimes other adhesives won't stick quite as well, and I have found that the Glue Glider adhesive works really great, so I try to use that when possible. You can see some of my confetti is stuck here. I kind of did a temporary do I like this, and some of the confetti, of course the transparency is pretty staticky, so it stuck to it. Go ahead and on the inside of my shaker, I'm going to attach the vellum cloud layer. So it's going to be directly on that window. Then I'm going to flip it over, and on the front of the shaker card, it's not going to be on the inside at all. I'm going to attach the white cloud border. This is where I'm going to be able to stamp part of that phrase from the Friend Indeed Mama Elephant stamp set. Plus I'm going to attach my die cut greeting, and I'm going to attach those cute little mice. I'm going to lay out my greeting now. I love Mama Elephant's greeting stamp sets that mix and match. They came out with 2 of them this month. And I love being able to mix and match the greetings to really customize what you want to say. I'm using a white StazOn ink for the part of the greeting that's going to be on the transparency window. And that's going to read, "I'm lucky to have a." Then the die cut word "friend" will be the next part of the greeting. And I'll stamp the rest of the greeting with a really light ink from the Hero Arts Ombre Gray to Black ink that says "Like You." There is also a large friend stamp if you prefer to stamp your greeting, if you're creating a card where that's possible. This is a design where that just really wouldn't have worked, or at least not as easily as attaching a die cut word. I purposely didn't worry about the little dot for the eye, taking it out when I first die cut the word "friend," because at least I knew where it was, and that way I just poked it out just now and then glued that right to the front of my card. I'm using some glue dots to attach these mice now. I'm going to have one at the beginning of the word "friend." I'm going to have one of them sitting on the letter N in "friend," and then I'll have the last one sitting in the clouds at the end of the word. I'll get him tucked in there so it kind of looks like he's sitting in the clouds. Once those are all positioned, I can go ahead and add my foam adhesive to the back of the frame. This is going to give me a nice little well to add my shaker material. I am using some confetti from a recent card kit that I got, and I just love the colors in it, so I'm going to completely cover anything that's not going to be seen. And then I'm going to just sprinkle all this Martha Stewart confetti inside of the shaker, pull off the backing paper for the shaker card. Once I have all of that off, I am going to take the card base itself and take it to the shaker. Instead of trying to flip that over, you want to take the backer of the shaker, or the card base in this case, since the shaker front is the same size as an A2 card, and I'm going to take that to the shaker. Now I realized after I removed the backing paper that I didn't use my powder tool on the inside of the shaker along the edge so that the confetti doesn't stick to it. So I very carefully kind of went in and used my powder brush tool to add some of that shaker to that, or powder to that rather, so hopefully the shaker material doesn't stick quite so bad. Then I'm going to take my back of the card to it, flip it over and shake it up, and there is a really fun shaker card. Finally, I did have a couple of little pieces of confetti created with the Mama Elephant Confetti Creative Cuts die that I just had saved from another project. They were die cut from some silver glitter paper. I'm going to take those and adhere them right to the end of the greeting there, and that will finish up my card. Thanks for watching this video showcasing the new Mama Elephant Friend Indeed stamp set and friend die. The supplies I've used are listed and linked below the video on YouTube. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.